September 28, 2024. A shivering little girl begged a cold-hearted CEO for shelter in his garage. And when he said yes, his entire world began to collapse within 48 hours. She drew pictures that predicted murders before they happened, whispered secrets that exposed his deadliest enemies, and revealed a truth he'd buried for years. But why would a homeless child risk everything to save a man who had nothing to give her? The iron gates of the Bradford estate stood 12 feet tall, crowned with security cameras that swept the Portland hillside like mechanical vultures. Mitchell Bradford, 52, CEO of Cascade Tech Industries, had designed them that way. Everything about his life was calculated, measured, controlled. The mansion behind those gates wasn't just a home. It was a fortress, a monument to the empire he'd clawed from nothing. That night, Mitchell sat in his study on the third floor, reviewing acquisition reports while rain hammered the bay windows. His assistant had resigned earlier that day, the third one in 6 months. They all said the same thing eventually. Working for Mitchell Bradford was like working for a machine that had forgotten it was human. He didn't care. Machines didn't fail. Humans did. The intercom on his desk crackled. "Sir, there's someone at the front gate." His head of security, Vincent Hayes, sounded uncertain, which was unusual. Mitchell didn't look up from his screen. "Then handle it." "Sir, it's a child. A little girl. She's asking to sleep in the garage." Mitchell's fingers paused on the keyboard. He pressed the intercom button. "What?" "She's maybe 9 or 10 years old. Soaking wet. No shoes. She keeps saying she just needs the garage. She won't leave." For the first time that evening, Mitchell looked away from his work. He switched on the security monitor embedded in his desk. The screen flickered to life, showing the front gate in grainy night vision. There she stood, a tiny figure pressed against the bars, her hair plastered to her face by rain. She wore an oversized jacket that hung past her knees, torn jeans, and no shoes. Her feet were black with mud. In her arms, she clutched a backpack that looked older than she was. Mitchell's jaw tightened. "Call Child Protective Services." "Already did, sir. They said they're overwhelmed tonight. Domestic violence calls from the storm. They can't send anyone until morning." "Then call the police." "She hasn't committed a crime, sir. She's just standing there, asking." Mitchell leaned closer to the screen. The girl wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming or banging on the gate like most people who wanted something from him. She simply stood there, her eyes fixed on the camera as if she could see directly through it into his office. Then she did something strange. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a piece of paper. She held it up to the camera. Mitchell squinted. It was a drawing. Crude, done in what looked like crayon or colored pencil. But the image was clear enough. A large house, a gate, and a small stick figure standing outside. Inside the gate, a taller figure stood at a window. Below the drawing, in wobbly handwriting, "Please, they're coming." Mitchell's chest tightened. He told himself it was irritation, not curiosity. "Who's coming?" Vincent's voice crackled back. "Sir, ask her who's coming." A pause. Then Vincent's voice, distant, speaking to the girl. The camera angle shifted as Vincent approached the gate. Mitchell watched the girl's lips move, but couldn't hear her words. Vincent returned to the intercom. "She says the bad men, the ones who hurt people when they ask questions." Mitchell's hand hovered over the intercom button. Every instinct screamed at him to end this, to let the system handle it, to return to his reports. But something about the girl's eyes, dark and unblinking on the camera, held him. "Let her into the garage," he said finally. "Give her a blanket and water. I'll deal with it in the morning." Vincent hesitated. "Sir, are you sure? Did I stutter?" "No, sir." Mitchell switched off the monitor and returned to his reports, but the words blurred. He told himself it was fatigue. He told himself it was the responsible thing to do. But deep down, in a place he'd buried years ago, he knew the truth. It was a drawing. The girl had drawn his house before she'd ever seen it up close. 20 minutes later, Mitchell found himself walking down the stone path to the 6-car garage, an umbrella in one hand, irritation burning in his chest. This was absurd. He was a CEO with a board meeting in 8 hours, and here he was, checking on a homeless child like some kind of social worker. The garage door was open. Vincent stood just inside, arms folded, watching the girl. She sat on an old workbench, wrapped in a gray blanket, her bare feet dangling. A bottle of water sat untouched beside her. Mitchell stepped inside, shaking rain from his umbrella. The girl's head turned immediately, her eyes locking onto his. "What's your name?" Mitchell asked, his voice clipped. "Zara," she said quietly. "Zara Williams. Where are your parents, Zara?" "Gone." "Gone where?" She looked down at her hands. "Just gone." Mitchell exhaled sharply. "You can't stay here. In the morning, we'll find you a shelter, a proper place." "They'll find me there," Zara interrupted. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled as they gripped the blanket. "They always find people in shelters." "Who will find you?" Zara reached into her backpack again and pulled out a small notebook. She flipped it open and held it out to him. Mitchell stepped closer, frowning. The pages were filled with drawings. Dozens of them. Different scenes, different people. But one drawing made his blood run cold. It showed a man in a suit standing in an office. Behind him, through the window, a city skyline. And behind the man, barely visible in the shadows, another figure holding something long and thin. A gun. Mitchell's throat went dry. "When did you draw this?" 2 days ago, Zara whispered. "I draw what I see before it happens." Mitchell's pulse hammered in his ears. He forced a laugh, harsh and dismissive. "That's impossible." Zara closed the notebook slowly. "The man in the picture looks like you." Vincent stepped forward, his hand moving instinctively toward his sidearm. "Sir, maybe we should—" The lights went out. The garage plunged into darkness. Rain pounded the roof like 1,000 fists. Mitchell's breath caught as his eyes struggled to adjust. Then, from somewhere outside, came the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving toward the garage. Zara's small voice cut through the black. "They're here." The footsteps stopped just outside the garage door. Mitchell's hand shot out, gripping Vincent's arm in the darkness. His security chief was already moving, positioning himself between the door and Zara. Then light flooded back. The backup generator kicked in with a mechanical groan, and the overhead fluorescence flickered to life. Vincent had his weapon drawn, aimed at the door. But when it opened, it wasn't an intruder. It was Samuel Chun, Mitchell's longtime driver and groundskeeper, holding a flashlight and looking confused. "Mr. Bradford? Power's out in the main house too. I was checking the breaker when I saw movement in the garage." His eyes landed on Zara, and his weathered face softened. "Who's this?" Mitchell's heart was still hammering. He forced his voice steady. "Just a girl seeking shelter." "False alarm, Samuel. Check the backup systems and get the main power restored." Samuel nodded, but his gaze lingered on Zara with something Mitchell couldn't quite place. Concern? Recognition? Before Mitchell could ask, Samuel disappeared back into the rain. Vincent holstered his weapon, but his jaw remained tight. "Sir, with respect, this isn't normal. A child shows up with drawings of your office, claims people are hunting her, and immediately the power cuts. We need to involve the authorities properly." "In the morning," Mitchell said curtly. He turned to Zara, who sat perfectly still, her eyes tracking every movement. "You said, they're here. Who exactly are they?" Zara pulled the blanket tighter. "The men who work for the people you hurt." Mitchell's stomach dropped. "I haven't hurt anyone." "Not with your hands," Zara said quietly. "With your choices." Vincent shifted uncomfortably. Mitchell felt heat rising in his chest, anger mixing with something he refused to name. "Fear. That's enough riddles. If you want to stay here tonight, you'll explain yourself clearly." Zara reached into her backpack once more. This time, she pulled out a worn newspaper clipping, the edges yellowed and soft from handling. She held it out. Mitchell took it, stepping under the light. The headline made his vision narrow. "Warehouse fire claims 7 lives. Cascade tech supplier under investigation." The date was 4 years ago. Mitchell remembered it vividly because his legal team had spent months ensuring his company's name stayed clear of liability. The warehouse belonged to a subcontractor, not Cascade Tech directly. The fire was ruled accidental, caused by faulty wiring the subcontractor had ignored despite warnings. Mitchell's company had severed ties immediately, and the media storm had blown over within weeks. "This has nothing to do with me," Mitchell said, but his voice lacked conviction. Zara's eyes didn't waver. "One of the people who died was my uncle, Marcus Williams. He was a foreman. He told his boss the wiring was dangerous. He sent emails. He made reports." Mitchell's throat constricted. "The investigation cleared." "Your company knew," Zara interrupted, her voice trembling now but growing stronger. "My uncle sent the emails to Cascade Tech too. He copied someone named Gerald Foss. He begged for help because his boss wouldn't listen. But nobody came." Gerald Foss, Mitchell's former VP of operations. A man who'd retired quietly 2 years ago with a generous severance package and an ironclad non-disclosure agreement. "Where did you get this information?" Mitchell demanded. "My aunt kept everything. Every email my uncle printed. Every voicemail he saved. She tried to sue, but your lawyers buried her. She couldn't afford to fight. 2 years later, she died too. The doctors said it was her heart, but I know it was sadness." Mitchell's hands trembled as he held the clipping. Vincent was watching him now, no longer focused on external threats but on the man he'd protected for 6 years. "Where are you living now?" Vincent asked Zara gently. "Nowhere. Foster care sometimes, but I run away. The families don't keep kids like me long." She paused. "And someone's been following me ever since I started asking questions about my uncle." "Questions to whom?" Mitchell asked. Zara pulled out her notebook again, flipping to a page filled with names written in careful block letters. Mitchell recognized several immediately. Board members, executives, legal counsel. "I sent letters," Zara said. "I used the library computers. I told them I had my uncle's emails. I told them I knew the truth about the warehouse." Mitchell's blood turned to ice. "You blackmailed my board?" "I asked for the truth," Zara corrected. "But 2 weeks ago, a man came to the Foster home. He said he was from a law firm. He wanted to talk about my uncle's case. But when I met him in the visiting room, he didn't ask questions. He told me to stop digging. He said accidents happen to children too." Vincent swore under his breath. Mitchell's mind raced. If someone on his board felt threatened enough to intimidate a child, it meant Zara wasn't wrong. It meant there was something worth hiding. "Do you remember this man's name?" Vincent asked. Zara nodded. "He gave me a card. I kept it." She dug through her backpack and produced a bent business card. Mitchell took it. The name printed in elegant script made his stomach turn. Howard Reeves, senior partner, Klein and Associates. Klein and Associates wasn't just any firm. They were Cascade Tech's primary legal representation. And Howard Reeves wasn't just a lawyer. He was Mitchell's personal attorney, the man who'd handled the warehouse settlement, who'd crafted the NDAs, who'd made Gerald Foss's retirement disappear from public record. "He works for you," Zara said, looking at Mitchell's face. "That's why I came here. If the people trying to stop me work for you, then you're either the most dangerous person I could meet, or the only one who can help me." Mitchell looked at the little girl wrapped in a blanket in his garage, her feet still caked with mud, her eyes holding an intelligence and pain that no 9-year-old should carry. She wasn't just homeless. She was a threat to his empire, carrying evidence that could unravel everything he'd built. The smart move, the Mitchell-Bradford move, would be to call Howard Reeves right now, let the lawyers handle it, make this problem disappear like all the others. But the drawing flashed in his mind. The man in the office. The shadow with the gun. "Vincent," Mitchell said slowly, "I want a full security sweep of the property. Check for breaches, surveillance, anything unusual." "Sir, do it now." Vincent hesitated, then nodded and stepped out into the rain, speaking urgently into his radio. Mitchell crouched down until he was eye level with Zara. "If what you're saying is true, if my people are threatening you, then you're in danger. But so am I." "I know," Zara whispered. That's what I've been trying to tell you. The drawings I make, they show me things before they happen. And in every picture I've drawn this week, you die. Unless what? Unless you finally tell the truth about what happened to my uncle. The garage suddenly felt suffocating. Mitchell stood, pacing to the door, staring out at his estate, his empire, his carefully constructed life. Behind him, Zara's voice was soft but unrelenting. They're not just coming for me, Mr. Bradford. They're coming for you too, because you're the only one who can prove they're guilty. And in that moment, Mitchell Bradford realized the child shivering in his garage wasn't seeking shelter from the rain. She was seeking shelter from the same people who wanted him dead. Mitchell didn't sleep that night. He moved Zara into one of the guest rooms on the second floor, over the protests of his housekeeper, Mrs. Linda Kowalski, who'd worked for him for 8 years and never questioned his decisions until now. A strange child, Mr. Bradford? Without proper vetting? This is highly irregular. She stays, Mitchell said flatly, and she doesn't leave this property without my knowledge. By dawn, Vincent had completed his security sweep. He found Mitchell in his study, the contents of an old filing cabinet spread across his desk. Documents from 4 years ago, marked with Gerald Foss's signature. Sir, we found something, Vincent said, closing the door behind him. 3 surveillance devices. 1 in your office downstairs, 1 in the garage, and 1 in your bedroom. Mitchell's head snapped up. What? Professional grade. Not the kind you buy online. These are corporate espionage levels. They've been there for weeks, maybe months. Who installed them? That's what concerns me. They're hardwired into the electrical system. Whoever placed them had access to the house during construction or renovation work. Vincent paused. Sir, when was the last time you had contractors here? Mitchell's mind raced. 6 months ago. The security upgrade. Howard Reeves recommended the company. Vincent's expression darkened. The same lawyer Zara identified. The pieces were clicking together, forming a picture Mitchell didn't want to see. He'd trusted Howard for 15 years. The man had been at his side through every major deal, every lawsuit, every crisis. But if Howard had placed surveillance in his home, it meant the betrayal ran deeper than legal maneuvering. It meant someone was watching, listening, waiting. Pull the recordings, Mitchell ordered. I want to know everything those devices captured. Already on it. But sir, there's something else. Vincent handed him a tablet. I ran background checks on your current household staff. Mrs. Kowalski checks out clean. Samuel Chen, same. But your previous assistant, the one who quit last month, Rebecca Hartley. She accepted a position at Klein and Associates 2 weeks after leaving you. Mitchell felt the walls closing in. Rebecca had access to everything. His calendar, his emails, his private files. If she was working with Howard now, they knew his every move before he made it. How long has this been going on? Mitchell whispered. Based on the surveillance equipment, I'd say they've been preparing for something big. The question is what? The answer came 3 hours later. Mitchell was in his home office with Zara, reviewing the documents from the warehouse fire, when his phone erupted with alerts, news notifications, stock prices, emergency messages from his board. The headline blazed across his screen. Breaking: Cascade Tech CEO under investigation for manslaughter cover-up, new evidence emerges. His hands went numb. He clicked the article. Anonymous sources had leaked internal documents to the press. Emails showing Cascade Tech executives had received safety complaints about the warehouse weeks before the fire. Gerald Foss's name was highlighted. So was Mitchell's. But the smoking gun was an email Mitchell had never seen before, allegedly from his own account, instructing Foss to handle the situation quietly and minimize company exposure. I never wrote this, Mitchell breathed. Zara looked at the screen, her face gravely. They're framing you. Vincent burst through the door. Sir, we need to move now. There are reporters at the gate. Police are requesting you come in for questioning. And I just got word, Howard Reeves is holding a press conference in 20 minutes. Mitchell pulled up the live stream on his computer. Howard stood before a wall of microphones, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression somber and righteous. "It is with great sadness that I must step forward today," Howard began, his voice heavy with false regret. "As legal counsel for Cascade Tech Industries, I have a duty to the truth. Mitchell Bradford is a man I've advised for many years. But I can no longer remain silent about what I know." Mitchell's blood turned to ice. "4 years ago, I was presented with evidence that Cascade Tech had knowledge of dangerous working conditions at a supplier facility. I advised Mr. Bradford to address these concerns immediately. Instead, he ordered me to bury the complaints and ensure no liability reached the company. When 7 people died in that warehouse fire, including Marcus Williams, Mr. Bradford's primary concern was protecting his stock price. The press erupted with questions. Howard raised his hand for silence. "I have cooperated fully with investigators and provided all relevant documentation. I can no longer stand by while an innocent man's death goes unanswered. Mitchell Bradford must face justice." The stream ended. Mitchell sat frozen, his empire detonating in real time. His phone exploded with calls. Board members, investors, news outlets, all of them circling like sharks smelling blood. Zara's small hand touched his arm. "He's lying. I know he's lying," Mitchell snapped. "But he has documents. Emails I never sent. Evidence I never created." "Because he created them," Zara said. "That's what they do. They make you look guilty so nobody looks at them." Vincent was pacing, his hand on his weapon. "Sir, this is a coordinated attack. The surveillance, the leaks, the fabricated evidence, Howard's press conference. They're not just destroying your reputation. They're building a legal case. If you're convicted of manslaughter, you're looking at prison time." Mitchell's phone rang. The caller ID made his stomach drop. Board Chairman Lawrence Palmer. He answered, putting it on speaker. "Lawrence." "Mitchell." The voice was cold, clipped. "Emergency board meeting. 1 hour. We're voting on your removal as CEO pending the investigation. You can't do that without. We can and we will. You've become a liability. Cascade Tech cannot survive the scandal with you at the helm. Prepare your resignation or we'll force you out. Either way, you're done." The line went dead. Mitchell set the phone down carefully, afraid if he moved too quickly he'd shatter. Everything he'd built for 30 years was collapsing in a single morning. And the architect of his destruction was the man he'd trusted most. "They won't stop with your job," Zara said quietly. She opened her notebook to a new drawing. This one showed a courtroom, a judge's bench, and a man in handcuffs. Behind the defendant stood 3 shadowy figures, their faces blank. "They're going to make sure you can't fight back. Prison or death. Those are the only endings they've planned for you." Vincent moved to the window, peering through the blinds. "Sir, we have more company." 2 black SUVs just pulled up. Not reporters. They look federal. Mitchell felt the trap closing from all sides. His own lawyer had turned the law into a weapon. His board was cutting him loose to save themselves. And somewhere, the people who'd threatened a 9-year-old girl were watching, waiting for him to break. He looked at Zara, this tiny girl who'd come to him with nothing but truth and terror, and made a decision. "Vincent, cancel everything. No board meeting, no police interviews, not yet. We're going on offense." "Sir." Mitchell pulled up his computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Howard thinks he's controlled the narrative. But he made one mistake. He assumed I'd play by the rules." He pulled up archived security footage from his office building. "Every meeting I've ever had has been recorded for legal protection, including every conversation I had with Howard Reeves. If he fabricated emails, the footage will prove it." "Where are these recordings kept?" "Corporate server. Encrypted. Only I have access." Mitchell's jaw tightened. "And I know exactly which conversations will destroy him." Zara watched him work, her expression unreadable. "They'll try to stop you before you can release them." "I know." Mitchell looked at Vincent. "How many men can you trust? Truly trust?" 4, maybe 5. Old military. They don't work for Cascade. They work for me. Call them. We're going to need protection." Mitchell turned back to his screen, downloading files onto an encrypted drive. If Howard wants war, he'll get one. But this time, I'm not fighting from the shadows. Outside, the federal agents were approaching the front door. The board was convening without him. The news was destroying his name minute by minute. But for the first time since Zara had appeared at his gate, Mitchell Bradford wasn't afraid. He was angry, and anger, focused and righteous, was something he knew how to use. The federal agents weren't there to arrest him. Not yet. Special Agent Diana Morales and her partner stood in Mitchell's foyer, their credentials displayed, their expressions carefully neutral. Mr. Bradford, we're here regarding the warehouse fire investigation. We'd like you to come downtown voluntarily for questioning. Mitchell stood at the top of the stairs, Vincent beside him, the encrypted drive burning in his pocket. Am I under arrest? Not at this time. But cooperation would be in your best interest. I'll cooperate, Mitchell said. But not today. My attorney will schedule an appointment. Agent Morales's eyebrow raised. I was under the impression Howard Reeves was your attorney. He's the one who brought this case to us. Mitchell descended the stairs slowly. Mr. Reeves no longer represents me or my interests. In fact, I believe he's the one you should be investigating. The agents exchanged glances. That's a serious allegation, with serious evidence. Mitchell pulled out his phone, showing them a screenshot of the surveillance devices Vincent had found. These were planted in my home by contractors Howard Reeves recommended. I have documentation, timestamps, and recordings that will prove Howard Reeves has been orchestrating a conspiracy to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. Agent Morales studied the image. We'll need to examine those devices. They're being held as evidence by my security team. You're welcome to them. But first, I have something to show the world. 20 minutes later, Mitchell stood in his home theater room, which Vincent had converted into a makeshift broadcast studio. Cameras were positioned, lights adjusted. Zara sat in the corner, sketching quietly, her presence somehow steadying Mitchell's racing heart. Are you sure about this? Vincent asked. Once you go live, there's no taking it back. Mitchell adjusted his tie. Howard went public. So will I. He'd sent one message before starting. A mass email to every major news outlet, every business journalist, and every member of his board. The subject line read, "The truth about Cascade Tech live statement from Mitchell Bradford." Within minutes, thousands were watching the stream. By the time he started speaking, that number had climbed to 50,000. Mitchell looked directly into the camera, his voice steady. My name is Mitchell Bradford. This morning, my former attorney, Howard Reeves, accused me of covering up manslaughter. Those accusations are false, and I can prove it. He held up the encrypted drive. This contains 15 years of recorded meetings between myself and Mr. Reeves. Every major decision, every legal strategy, every conversation about the warehouse fire that killed 7 people, including Marcus Williams. These recordings will show that not only did I not order a cover-up, but that Howard Reeves was the architect of the conspiracy to hide Cascade Tech's knowledge of safety violations. The chat exploded with comments. The viewer count hit 100,000. 4 years ago, Gerald Foss, my VP of Operations, received multiple safety complaints about our supplier's warehouse. Those complaints should have reached me immediately. They didn't. Mr. Foss, under guidance from Howard Reeves, buried them to avoid regulatory scrutiny. When the warehouse caught fire, Howard advised me that the matter was handled through proper legal channels and that Cascade Tech bore no liability. Mitchell's voice hardened. I trusted him. That trust was a mistake. What I didn't know until yesterday was that Marcus Williams had sent direct emails to Gerald Foss, begging for intervention. Those emails were deleted from our servers. But Marcus's family kept copies. He gestured off-camera. Zara stood, walking into frame, holding her uncle's photograph. The image of the 9-year-old girl, barefoot and brave, holding a picture of a dead man, struck viewers with visceral force. This is Zara Williams, Marcus's niece. When she started asking questions about her uncle's death, Howard Reeves sent someone to threaten her into silence. A child. He threatened a child to protect his conspiracy. The viewer count hit 200,000. News networks were picking up the stream. I'm releasing these recordings to federal investigators and to the public simultaneously. You'll hear Howard Reeves in his own words, admitting that he withheld safety complaints, that he falsified documents, and that he instructed Gerald Foss to lie to me about the severity of the situation. You'll also hear something else. Mitchell pressed play on an audio file. His computer speakers carried Howard's voice, crystal clear, from a meeting 6 months ago. Mitchell, if anyone ever connects those warehouse deaths to actual negligence on our part, we're looking at criminal charges. The only way to stay clean is to ensure the trail leads nowhere near you. I've already adjusted the documentation. As far as anyone knows, you never received those safety reports. Mitchell paused the recording. I didn't understand what he meant at the time. I thought he was protecting the company from frivolous lawsuits. Now I know he was protecting himself and framing me as a scapegoat if the truth ever emerged. The stream chat was moving too fast to read. 300,000 viewers. Mitchell's phone erupted with calls. He ignored them all except one. Lawrence Palmer, the board chairman. He answered the speaker. Lawrence, what the hell do you think you're doing? Palmer's voice was pure fury. Telling the truth. You should try it sometime. You're destroying the company. Our stock is in free fall. Investors are panicking. You've just triggered a complete meltdown. No, Lawrence. Howard Reeves triggered this when he decided to frame me for manslaughter. I'm just making sure the right people go down for it. You're insane. The board will. The board will shut up and listen, Mitchell snapped. Because in about 30 seconds, I'm releasing a recording of our executive meeting from 3 years ago, where you, Gerald Foss, and Howard Reeves discussed burying safety complaints from multiple suppliers to maintain profit margins. You all knew. You all chose silence. And now you're all going to face the consequences. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, you're bluffing. Try me. Mitchell ended the call and uploaded the next file. The audio began playing live. Voices of Lawrence Palmer, Gerald Foss, and Howard Reeves discussing how to manage liability exposure by ensuring safety complaints never reached Mitchell or became part of official records. The stream exploded. 400,000 viewers. News alerts were blaring across every platform. Hashtag Cascade Tech Scandal was trending worldwide. Agent Morales called. Mr. Bradford, we need those files. All of them. Now. They're yours, Mitchell said. I'm sending everything to your office, but I'm also releasing them publicly. No more secrets. No more buried evidence. He ended the call and looked at Zara. She'd returned to her corner, sketching. Did I do the right thing? She held up her newest drawing. It showed a tall building with pieces falling from it, people running in all directions. But in the center stood a man and a small girl, surrounded by cameras and lights, still standing. You're still alive, she said simply. That means it's working. Vincent's radio crackled. We have a situation. Multiple vehicles approaching the property. Some are pressed, but 3 are unmarked. No plates. Mitchell's blood chilled. Howard's people. Most likely. We need to move you and the girl. Now. But before Mitchell could respond, his phone rang one more time. The caller ID showed Howard Reeves. Against Vincent's protests, Mitchell answered. Howard's voice was cold, stripped of its usual refinement. You've made a catastrophic mistake, Mitchell. Have I? Because from where I'm standing, you're the one about to be indicted. You think releasing those recordings saves you? You've just signed your death warrant. I have resources you can't imagine. People who don't care about evidence or trials. They care about problems being solved permanently. Is that a threat? It's a promise. That little girl sitting next to you? She should have stayed in foster care. Now she's an accomplice to your suicide. The line went dead. Vincent was already moving. We're leaving. Back exit. I have a car waiting. Mitchell grabbed Zara's hand. She clutched her backpack and her drawings as Vincent led them through the house toward the service entrance. Behind them, they could hear the front gate being breached, vehicles pouring onto the property. They burst into the garage where Samuel waited in an unmarked sedan, engine running. Go, go! Vincent shoved Mitchell and Zara into the back seat, jumping into the passenger side. Samuel floored it, the car shooting down the service road toward the back of the property. Through the rear window, Mitchell watched his mansion, his fortress, swarmed by vehicles. Some were news vans. Others were black SUVs with men in suits pouring out. His empire wasn't just crumbling anymore. It was under siege. And somewhere in those vehicles was someone who wanted him dead before he could testify. Zara squeezed his hand. Where are we going? Mitchell didn't have an answer. For the first time in his life, he was running, not from his past, but toward an uncertain future where the only certainty was that powerful men wanted him silenced. Somewhere safe, he finally said, though he wasn't sure such a place existed anymore. Samuel drove like a man who'd done this before. The sedan wove through Portland's industrial district, taking side streets and alleys that didn't appear on GPS. Vincent kept his weapon ready, eyes scanning every intersection, every parked car, every shadow that moved. Where are we going? Mitchell asked again. Safe house, Samuel replied, his usually quiet voice now commanding. Military contacts. Off the grid. Nobody knows about it except Vincent and me. Mitchell stared at his driver, seeing him clearly for the first time. You're not just a groundskeeper, are you? Samuel's eyes met him in the rearview mirror. No, sir. Vincent and I served together. Marines. Close protection unit. When he took the job with you 6 years ago, he asked me to come along. Just in case. In case of what? In case you ever needed someone who wasn't on any official payroll. 20 minutes later, they pulled into a warehouse district near the river. Samuel killed the lights, guiding the car into a loading dock. Vincent jumped out, scanning the perimeter before signaling them to move. The safe house was a converted loft above an auto repair shop. Concrete floors, reinforced doors, and windows covered with blackout curtains. Vincent swept the space methodically while Samuel secured the entrance. Zara sat on an old couch, pulling out her notebook. Mitchell paced, his phone exploding with notifications he couldn't bring himself to read. Sir, you need to see this. Vincent turned on a small television mounted on the wall. Every channel was covering the scandal. Mitchell's live stream had been viewed over 2 million times. News anchors dissected every word, every recording. Legal analysts predicted criminal charges. Business reporters showed Cascade tech stock in complete freefall. Trading halted twice in 1 hour. But the biggest story wasn't Mitchell's revelations. It was Howard Reeves's response. The lawyer stood before cameras again, but this time his composure was cracking. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool October air. His tie was loosened, his trademark silver hair slightly disheveled. Mitchell Bradford is a desperate man engaging in character assassination, Howard declared. The recordings he's released are selectively edited, taken out of context, and in some cases potentially falsified. My firm will be pursuing legal action for defamation, and I have full confidence that the truth will emerge through proper legal channels. A reporter shouted, Mr. Reeves, there are recordings of your voice discussing the deliberate burial of safety complaints. How do you explain that? No comment on ongoing legal matters. Did you threaten Zara Williams, a 9-year-old child? Howard's face flushed. That allegation is absurd and offensive. Then why did she come forward? Why would a homeless child risk everything to expose this conspiracy if it wasn't true? Howard's mask slipped completely. That child is being manipulated by Mitchell Bradford to create sympathy and deflect from his own guilt. She's a pawn, nothing more. The press erupted. Vincent muted the television. He's losing control. That's good for us. Is it? Mitchell sank into a chair. He just called Zara a pawn on national television. Every conspiracy theorist and internet mob will be hunting for her now. Zara looked up from her drawing. He's scared. People say mean things when they're scared. Mitchell's phone rang. Agent Morales. He answered hesitantly. Mr. Bradford, I've reviewed some of the recordings you provided. We need you to come in immediately for a formal statement. Are you charging me? Not at this time. But we are opening a criminal investigation into Howard Reeves, Lawrence Palmer, and Gerald Foss. We need your full cooperation. What about protection? Howard threatened my life. He threatened Zara. We can arrange protective custody. No. Mitchell's voice was firm. Protective custody means you control where we go, who we talk to. I've seen how these things work. Witnesses disappear. Evidence gets lost. I'll cooperate, but on my terms. Agent Morales sighed. Mr. Bradford, you're not in a position to negotiate. Actually, I am. I have 15 years of evidence. Without me, your case falls apart. So here's my offer. I'll come in tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. I'll bring everything you need. But tonight, Zara and I stay somewhere secure, somewhere Howard's people can't reach us. A long pause. Fine. 9 a.m. Federal Building, downtown Portland. Don't make me regret this. The call ended. Vincent was shaking his head. Sir, with respect, that was reckless. You should have accepted protection. From who? The same government that let Howard operate for 15 years? The same system that buried my uncle's complaints. Zara's voice was quiet but cutting. He's right not to trust them yet. Mitchell looked at the girl who'd upended his entire life in less than 48 hours. You've been through this before, haven't you? The system is failing you. Zara nodded. Foster care, social workers, lawyers. They all say they'll help. Then they disappear, and you're alone again. You're not alone now, Mitchell said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. Samuel entered from the stairwell. We've got movement. 2 cars circling the block. Could be nothing, but... Vincent was already moving, weapon drawn. How did they find us? Your phone. Samuel pointed at Mitchell's cell on the table. Tracking software. If Howard had access to your home systems, he definitely had access to your devices. Mitchell's blood ran cold. He'd led them straight here. Vincent grabbed the phone, yanked out the battery, and crushed the SIM card under his boot. Too late now. They know the general area. We need to move again. Where? Mitchell demanded. Every property I own. Every friend I have. Every resource. Howard knows about all of it. Not every resource. Zara pulled out a torn piece of paper with an address written in childish handwriting. My aunt's apartment, the one who kept my uncle's emails, has been empty since she died. Nobody knows about it except me. Vincent studied the address. Northeast Portland. Working-class neighborhood. Might actually work. It's not connected to Mr. Bradford in any database. How do we get there without being followed? Samuel asked. We don't. Vincent's face hardened. We split up. Samuel takes Mr. Bradford in one direction as a decoy. I take the girl another way. We will meet at the apartment in 1 hour. Absolutely not, Mitchell said. We stay together. Sir, if those cars are Howard's people, they're looking for a man and a girl together. We separate, we increase survival odds. Zara stood, slinging her backpack over her shoulders. He's right. They want you dead, but they want me silent. Different targets, different tactics. We split up, they have to choose. Mitchell wanted to argue, but the logic was sound. He looked at this brave, damaged child who'd somehow become his only ally in a world of enemies. 1 hour, he said. If anything happens. Nothing will happen, Vincent interrupted. I've protected diplomats in war zones. I can protect one kid in Portland. Samuel was already moving toward the door. Time to go. Those cars are getting closer. They descended the back stairs into the loading dock. Samuel's sedan waited, engine running. Beside it, Vincent had positioned a second vehicle, a nondescript Honda that wouldn't draw attention. Mitchell climbed into the sedan, looking back at Zara standing with Vincent. She looked impossibly small, her backpack nearly as big as her torso, her bare feet now covered with oversized sneakers Samuel had found somewhere. 1 hour, Mitchell repeated. Zara nodded. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled. You're going to be okay, Mr. Bradford. I've seen it. In your drawings? In the way you look at me now. Like I'm real. Like I matter. People who see that don't die. They change. Before Mitchell could respond, Samuel gunned the engine. The sedan shot out of the loading dock into the night, headlights cutting through rain that had started falling again. In the rearview mirror, Mitchell watched the warehouse shrink, watched Vincent and Zara climb into the Honda, watched them disappear in the opposite direction. His phone was destroyed. His empire was in ruins. His enemies were hunting him through the streets of his own city. But somewhere in the darkness, a 9-year-old girl believed he could survive this. And for reasons he couldn't explain, that belief was the only thing keeping him from completely falling apart. Samuel turned onto a main road, merging with traffic. "Sir, when we reach the apartment, what's the plan?" Mitchell stared at the rain-streaked window. "Tomorrow I will testify. I give them everything. And I pray that the truth is enough to keep us alive." Behind them, unseen, 2 black cars emerged from the warehouse district, headlights piercing the rain. The hunt was still on. The apartment building stood in a forgotten corner of northeast Portland, wedged between a laundromat and a boarded-up convenience store. Paint peeled from the walls like old skin. The lobby door hung crooked on rusted hinges. Mitchell had never been to a place like this. His world was glass towers and marble lobbies, not graffitied hallways that smelled of mildew and desperation. Samuel led him up 3 flights of stairs, stepping over trash and avoiding puddles of something Mitchell didn't want to identify. Apartment 3D. The lock was broken, the door swinging open with a gentle push. Inside, the space was small. A studio with a kitchenette, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in, and 1 window overlooking a fire escape. But it was empty. No furniture, no signs of life. Just water-stained walls and memories. "Zara lived here?" Mitchell asked quietly. "With her aunt, yeah." Samuel checked the window locks, tested the fire escape. After the aunt died, the landlord couldn't find next of kin to claim the lease. It's been sitting empty for 8 months. Mitchell walked to the window. From here, he could see the city lights in the distance, his tower among them, glowing like a beacon of everything he'd lost. 48 hours ago, he'd ruled that skyline. Now he was hiding in a slum, waiting for a child to arrive safely. His watch showed 53 minutes since they'd split up. "She should be here by now," Mitchell said, anxiously tightening his chest. "Vincent knows what he's doing. Trust the process." But at the 60-minute mark, Mitchell's composure cracked. "Something's wrong. Call him." Samuel pulled out a burner phone, dialed. It rang, and rang. No answer. Mitchell's heart hammered. Try again. Same result. Silence. "Maybe his phone's off for security," Samuel offered, but doubt colored his voice. Mitchell paced the small space like a caged animal. Every nightmare scenario flooded his mind. Vincent ambushed. Zara taken. Howard's people had found them, and it was Mitchell's fault for agreeing to split up. "We should go look for them," Mitchell said, "and lead whoever's watching straight to them." "No, sir. We wait. I won't sit here while that child—" The door burst open. Vincent stumbled in, his face bloodied, his jacket torn. Zara was clutched against his chest, conscious but terrified. He kicked the door shut behind him, breathing hard. What happened? Samuel already had his weapon out, checking the hallway. Ambush. 3 men, 2 blocks from here. They were waiting. Vincent set Zara down gently. She was shaking but unharmed. Professionals. Not cops, not feds. Private contractors. Mitchell dropped to his knees in front of Zara. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, but tears streaked her face. "They knew where we were going. They were waiting at the corner." "How did you get away?" Samuel asked Vincent. "Training and luck. Took one down, clipped another. The third ran when civilians started recording with phones." Vincent wiped blood from his split lip. "But they'll regroup. We've got maybe 20 minutes before they come back with reinforcements." Mitchell felt the walls closing in. No matter where they ran, Howard's reach extended further. Money bought loyalty, silence, and violence. "We can't keep running," Mitchell said. "Eventually, they'll corner us." "So what do you suggest?" Vincent's voice was sharp. You want to surrender? Walk into the FBI and hope they keep you alive long enough to testify. Yes. Mitchell stood, his decision crystallizing. That's exactly what I do. We go now. Tonight. We don't wait for morning. Sir, it's not safe. Nowhere is safe. Mitchell's voice cracked. But the FBI wants my testimony more than Howard wants me dead. If I'm in federal custody, I become too visible to kill quietly. It's the only play we have left. Zara tugged his sleeve. They'll separate us. Foster care again. Mitchell looked down at her. This child who'd saved his life, who'd trusted him when no one else would. I won't let that happen. You can't stop it. You're not my family. You're just... Her voice broke. You're just someone who let me sleep in your garage. The words cut deeper than any of Howard's threats. Because she was right. Mitchell had no legal claim to her, no authority to protect her once the system took over. But something had changed in him over these 2 days. Something fundamental. Then I'll become your family, he said quietly. Legal guardian, foster parent, whatever it takes. You saved my life, Zara. Now let me save yours. Samuel cleared his throat. Sir, that's a noble gesture, but the courts won't. I don't care what the courts usually do. I'll make them listen. Mitchell's voice hardened with the authority of a man who'd once commanded boardrooms. I have money, lawyers, and influence. Howard tried to destroy all that, but he failed. My testimony will put him in prison. And when it does, I'll use every resource I have left to make sure Zara never sleeps in a foster home again. Zara stared at him, searching his face for lies, for false promises. She'd heard them before from adults who disappeared. But something in Mitchell's eyes must have convinced her, because she nodded slowly. Vincent's radio crackled. Movement outside. 2 vehicles. We need to leave now. They descended the back stairs, emerging into an alley where Samuel had repositioned the sedan. Rain fell harder now, turning the pavement to mirrors reflecting red and blue lights in the distance. Police? Or Howard's people pretending to be? The federal building is 12 minutes from here, Samuel said, engine roaring to life. But they'll follow us. Let them, Mitchell said, pulling Zara close. The more witnesses, the better. The sedan shot into traffic, weaving through late-night streets. Behind them, headlights gave chase. But Mitchell wasn't afraid anymore. He'd spent his life running from truth, building empires on secrets and silence. Now he was running toward judgment, toward consequence, toward the only chance at redemption he had left, and he wasn't running alone.